Welcome back to Alberta Primetime. Remember Ralph Bucks? They could be back. Let's see what our Monday Money panel thinks about it. Jane Alm is an investment advisor with Angus Watt Advisory and National Bank Financial. Shafik Hirani is a director and senior executive financial advisor with Investors Group Calgary. And Beth Hamilton-Keene is director and portfolio manager with Moore Investment Management. Welcome back, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wildrose Party leader Danielle Smith is today promising $300 for each Albertan in 2015 if her party forms the next government. Shafik, what do you think?
Oh, well, I think, you know, there's always nice to get an extra $300, and it certainly does buy votes. But the problem with that kind of promise is it's not announced with any kind of framework in terms of the overall picture. So the purpose of the $300 is to encourage Albertans to purchase, produce, spend money in the economy, improve the economy. But I'd like to have seen her maybe announce what revenue they'll expect into this, what the debt to GDP would be in the province. I'd like to have seen more than a promise of $300, basically.
So, Beth, I mean, could she have been more creative there? Shafik is saying something like a tax incentive, an investment incentive, some kind of shelter.
Certainly, she could have been more creative. Of course, what first comes to my mind, we've all heard talk about the worry about the debt loads of Albertans, and of course, it may backfire. It might be that $300 just gets put against debt and doesn't provide any compounding or investment effect, and in fact, it could very well backfire. Of course, the approach too would be to be a little cynical. It comes from where, and that needs to be a question many Albertans have to ask.
Jane, do you think that there's a lot of people who will do the right thing with this, or is it simply, yeah, let's go get a new pair of jeans? Because even though there might not be a huge benefit to the economy on paying down debt, the Bank of Canada governor certainly wouldn't mind that.
Well, he wouldn't mind it. I think everyone would do what they want. They're not going to consider this as something to benefit the province. They're going to consider it as something to benefit each individual. You know, if they paid down debt, that would be great. Like you said, they could put it in an RSP, add on to their contribution. But there's no guarantee that they're going to do that. They could just, you know, fritter it away as well. So there's no saying what they could do. I'm with Beth. Where's it coming from? And is there something else better we could be doing with that money?
The new federal budget is making changes to old age security. Jane, how do the measures change retirement planning at all, if at all? The biggest one, of course, not getting your benefits until you're 67. How do you look at that, or maybe other measures?
It won't affect anyone who is 54 or older right now. You know, if you're under that 54, then the measures are scaled in. So they start and they scale up. So for instance, if you're 52, you might get your OAS at 65 years and 7 months. So you have to look at each case independently. The OAS makes up a small portion of somebody's retirement. That can be a critical portion for some people, but for other people that have bigger earnings, it's going to be clawed back. So each person has to look at their financial plan specifically, talk to an advisor, figure out if they need to adjust anything in the ongoing between now and then.
Beth, what do you see in the budget? Is it the OAS that you're focusing on with your clients, or are there other things as well?
Well, the OAS has given us lots of runway, so there's lots of time to plan and to anticipate and to make changes if they are required. Flexibility comes with the OAS announcement as well, which I think is probably of more value to our clients over time. I would say some of the other interesting measures are some of the small business measures. Definitely EI premium capping is one that will benefit some of our employer owners, as well as, of course, the hiring credit that we see for small businesses. Those are some nice little sweeteners in light of the fact that we're going to be, we're seeing deficit reduction, which is promising.
Shafik, what did you see on budget day?
Well, I was impressed that their deficit was $25 billion, and they're ahead of schedule on balancing the budget by 2015. So, from a grander perspective, the budget is on track and is doing well. Particular attention. The old age security was one of them. The second one is the pooled registered pension plans, the PRPPs. They look like they're going to be coming through to fruition. So those are an additional retirement savings vehicle that's important. So that's what we're looking at.
Can you expand on that a little bit more? What is it that they'd be offering that we don't have now?
Well, basically, all the financial institutions can offer an additional vehicle called a pooled registered pension plan that allows you to contribute for your, basically it's reduced from your registered retirement savings limit. It's another way to save for retirement. For those people that don't buy RSPs, it'll be another option available for them.
Jane, anything else? We asked you first about the old age security. What else do you see?
Well, what else we saw were the natural resources. They're going to be putting together review panels so that if, for instance, somebody comes with a pipeline, it's going to go through these panels within 24 months. Now, that means the onus is back on the companies to make sure they're well prepared, that all the documentation are there. But it should increase or decrease, rather, the amount of time it takes to go from planning board to implementing, therefore creating jobs and helping to sustain the economy through the piece from all across Canada, not just here in Alberta.
Although definitely an Alberta benefit.
Definitely.
And also the cutting. Lots of critics, Jane, saying that the federal government is downloading an awful lot on the provinces. Do you see Alberta, the economy, the government here being able to weather that?
Well, our economy is directly, obviously, related to the natural resources. As long as there's demand for commodities, our province is pretty good that way. You know, nobody wants to see more downloaded onto anyone else. However, we have a national budget, we have a national deficit, as well as provincial deficits and provincial debt that has to be dealt with. Each Canadian has to be prepared to take on some of that, whether it's federal or provincial level.
Beth, final thoughts from you on anything else in the budget that you liked or did not like?
Well, certainly there's a few other items in there that are interesting to watch, and the penny was, I think, the one that made the most headlines. Yeah. And I imagine that will have inflationary impacts as we see that unfold.
Next, an eye on investing. What our Monday Money panelists are watching for this week and why? That's when Alberta Primetime returns. Welcome back to Alberta Primetime and the Monday Money panel. Jane, as you look out for your investment clients in Edmonton, you're watching earnings right now. Tell us more about that.
Well, earnings season starts again in the U.S. on April 10th with Alcoa. We've had some pretty good earnings over the last number of quarters, but what's happened is now these companies have a higher level that they're coming off of, so it's going to be more difficult for them to get some of the numbers that are being expected. So we'll be watching to see whether earnings come in with positive surprises, just basically meeting the expectations, or below expectations. Some of those expectations are set pretty high right now. So,
and then that affects the markets, which in turn affects all of our investments.
Exactly, because if we have positive surprises, usually stocks move higher. If stocks meet the expectations, if earnings meet expectations, they usually don't do a whole lot. But if they miss, it can mean that they'll pull back. So we'll be watching that to see which way the majority of companies go.
Beth, what are you watching as you look out for your investors this week?
Well, certainly the themes continue. China is definitely on the watch. And of course, China does have a great impact on Canada, given our natural resource exposure and exporting business. From that perspective, China came out with some positive news today in that the manufacturing was better than expected. And as a result, it kind of gives us the sense that perhaps the slowdown is slowing down, in that we won't, it may not be a hard landing, but rather a soft landing in China, which is positive for Canadians. On the European front, certainly some interesting comments there. Greece is promising to continue to try really hard, which is quite interesting to watch, but haven't made any promises that they won't need to come back for a third bailout package.
Just both of those, I think, I want to touch on with you, Shafik, because in your notes for us today, you've got the price of oil, which relates a little bit to China. You're expecting the price of oil to drop in the next little bit, although maybe not a lot of people ready to believe.
No, that's going a little contrarian and against the Albertan grain, so I got to be careful with those comments. You know, when it comes to oil, there's a lot of pipelines that haven't come into fruition. And what you're seeing is a large buildup in Oklahoma, and you're seeing a lack of refinements. And hopefully tensions in the Middle East decline, and you'll see that disparity in oil reduce. And as oil goes up, it's great for the Alberta's province, but it is detrimental to the U.S. government, where the stock markets tend to track. So I would suspect oil to take a little bit of a breather and drop down a little bit from here.
You're also, as Beth mentioned, she talked about Greece. You're looking at global currencies yourself. Tell us more there.
Yeah, you have to keep an eye when you're investing, not just on the Canadian dollar, but on the Canadian dollar and how it relates to the pound, the euro, the U.S. dollar. you know, there's a lot of downward pressure on Greece. Spain's got 25% unemployment, and the U.S. has got increased earnings. So as they start to increase interest rates, you will see the U.S. You may see the U.S. currency appreciate relative to the Canadian dollar, yet the Canadian dollar is where most of our investments are held. So it's a good place to hold Canadian dollars.
Jane, do we have any indicators coming forward on the domestic economy? I know you mentioned earnings, particularly in the U.S.
On the Canadian side, geez, Shafik's usually better on those ones, that more current on that. I know we've got U.S. jobless claims is the big one coming out of the States on Friday. Now that's Good Friday, so it's unusual for them to make an announcement on economic data, but that's the date it's coming out. So there'll be many people wondering whether the trend we've seen in unemployment will continue to come down.
If the news is not good there, is the fact that it's a banking holiday in many places going to maybe cushion the blow?
No, it'll just postpone it till Monday. Probably.
Shafik, another one on your list, Deputy Governor of the Bank of Canada giving a speech at the Economic Club of Canada this week.
Yeah, you know, it's really interesting to see the differences between fiscal policy and monetary policy. And Mark Carney gave a really good speech today on the growth of the monetary policy. And it's interesting to see what they're going to be, the outlook is for interest rates, how much money they're throwing into the Canadian economy. That gives us an idea of which way the Canadian dollar is going. And so that's a really interesting one. And Purchasing Managers Index is out on Thursday. So that's also another leading economic indicator to see how manufacturing is doing in Canada.
Beth,
I would also,
go ahead.
I'd also like to weigh in something that might be very important for most Albertans as we approach this weekend. This tends to be a time that a lot of Albertans are taking a look at their taxes. And I would say that this is a great time to be looking at what your cost of interest is, how much your debt is costing you, and what will happen when interest rates do begin to go up. So this is an important thing for many investors as they evaluate their portfolios.
Beth, is there some place where people can get an easy-to-read list of the tax claims that they could be making, the receipts that they could be putting away for next year? I know we talked about this during tax season in the recent weeks, but it always seems like you just don't know where to turn to make that list of keep this receipt, keep that receipt, put this money there. Is there a one-stop shopping place?
Well, that never actually reduces the pain, because when you read the list, it's after the year has passed, and now you're trying to recreate and gather up these receipts that you could have been gathering up. So certainly many accountants and the tax accounting preparation providers have such lists, and I find them all to be very reliable and generally quite good. So whether it's your H&R Block or whether it's your local accountant or some of those websites that would do consolidation for you, I think they all provide good lists. The other place, of course, is to use that software that allows you just to simply plug in your receipts. Some of them have suggestive features that allow you to kind of second guess and go, oh, wait a minute, did I have transit expenses this year that I should gather up receipts for, and those types of things.
The other thing that investors can do is, if you've got an advisor, if you call your advisor, they're going to be able to tell you which receipts you should have received from whom based on your investments with them. So you're not going to get to your accountants and not have all of them. If you don't have them all, most of us can now provide them electronically.
Okay. Shafik, Beth mentioned this a little bit earlier while we're talking about government. The penny stopping production. The Royal Canadian Mint will produce the last penny this month. Distribution will end in the fall. It was another big item from the budget, at least a popular one to talk about. Is it sentimental purely? Have economists been saying for a long time, ditch the penny?
Yeah, it's nothing but pure nostalgia, and you know, I'm pretty apathetic on this one, so I don't know if I did look into it, and the cost for a penny is 1.6 cents to make a penny, and it's good to see it go. I know there's a big speaking topic of it. It'll save $11 million on a $26 billion budget, so it's no biggie. So good riddance.
The other thing we have to realize is that penny is only gone on cash transactions. It will still be there, so if you've got GST, HST, you're still going to have penny rounding on debit and on credit.
That's right.
Beth, is it good for Alberta businesses, especially maybe small businesses?
Well, it's good in that if they've been having problems processing their capital or their transactions in a cash standpoint, it could be good for them. It really depends on the length taken and the type of business those businesses are running. If it is a cash business, it could be a little bit of savings in the processing, and it may be an opportunity to round up in terms of pricing, in terms of making a bit of a benefit on the margin front. But overall, I would say it probably affects Albertans more in that savings, that that savings jar in the corner of all that loose change. Going to have to deal with that and cash it in. And so that'll probably be the most important impact for many Albertans.
Thank you all for your thoughts tonight. Jane Alm is an investment advisor with Angus Watt Advisory and National Bank Financial. Shafik Hirani is a director and senior executive financial advisor with Investors Group Calgary. And Beth Hamilton Keene, director and portfolio manager with Moore Investment Management.